Hello, my darling crafters. It's Miss Darling in the studio. Welcome. If you're here the first time, I am Mother of Swoop and have started my own channel, and we're doing all things junk journals here. Sometimes some true crime, sometimes stories about famous artists, and mostly we're crafting. And today we're going to be doing a textile masterboard. And I'm going to be using pretty much nothing but lace, and so I hope you'll stick around for the whole video because I think it'll be worth watching. And I do try to share some design tips along the way, and so if you don't watch the whole thing, you're going to miss out on perhaps something that might be really important to you. So that said, let's get going. I have already started somewhat to give us a head start, and so the video isn't as long. Now, in order to do something that's all lace, you're going to, of course, need lots of different types of laces, different sizes, different patterns, and so on and so forth, for it to come out looking, professional in the way you want it to look. And so if you haven't collected a lot, then you'll of course need to do that first. Now, a lot of laces seem to come in pretty much the same colors. They're either bright white or ivory, or they go into a definite cream category. And so if you want to get any contrast in your masterboard, you're going to probably need to dye some of them, because you can't just go by exactly what you want in the color you want. So I have coffee dyed some of the items that you see here. This is a coffee dyed piece, and so is this one, so is this one, and this is a cotton lace, which is different from the rest, but it's also been coffee dyed, as you can probably tell. I first started out thinking I would use a piece of cloth like this as my substrate, knowing that the reverse side would already look great. But I fell in love with the front side and thought, gee, I don't want to cover that up. I'm going to use it as a cover in and of its own. So, for instance, if I fold this in half, which is what I plan to do, then the front cover is going to look something like this. I might even leave that kind of turned over. Don't you just hate it when phone calls interrupt what you're doing? So I have resized what I'm working on to fit into this size of journal. And so I'm using the same fabric, just not a coffee dyed version of it. So you can see that up here. Anyway, I went and pulled out a bunch of the lace samples that I have and cut off, a sizable piece. This is roughly in the shape of a square, and sometimes I'll make them elongated one way, or horizontal the other way, or different sizes, and that's what you want. So I generally start with my corners and I lay them in first, and then I fill in what's left over. Now, I had this long piece here that's very narrow and gives me nice contrast with the dark pieces, and so I came over and laid that down, going all the way across, and that gives my masterboard some cohesion and stability. And so then you have to decide in what order you want your pieces, because when you're overlapping, and by the way, this is called an overlapping squares style, So when you're overlapping, you have to decide which end of which piece do you want to show. And so I generally, if I have a piece like this that's finished on one side, and this is a beautiful little scallop here, I'm definitely going to want that one on top. And over here, I have a ragged edge there, but I will cover that over with something really narrow, you know, like maybe something like this, and lay that down on top to finish it off. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So in this particular case, I want the two end pieces to lay on top. This one is going to stay underneath. That one stays underneath. This one is on top on this side, but underneath over here. And this one is underneath all the way around. So once you've decided what's going to stay on the bottom, those are the ones you want to glue down first. So I'm going to take some of my Fabrifix glue. You probably should take a photo of your layout first before you start gluing down, so if you get mixed up along the way, you can refer to your photo as to what you intended to do. And I can't tell you how many times I've failed to do that and regretted it. So be sure and do that. Okay, so I'm going to just fold back part of this and drop in. Ooh, I need to take my glasses off so I can see. Okay, here we're going. And it's a good idea to have a tissue or something that you use to press this down other than your fingers, because you don't want to get your fingers all sticky. You can change out your tissue when you need to, but it's kind of difficult to change out your fingers, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to lay this one back, and now we'll do the other side. You don't have to glue them. If you decide you're going to sew them in place after you get done, then just put down a little bit of glue to hold it in place until you get it over to your sewing machine. You could also sew by hand as well if you're handy at that, and maybe you've got some really cool stitches you could throw into the mix. That would look great. Oh, now see, I have a scallop down here that probably should be on top. So I'm going to pull that up just for a while. Kind of lay that down so I don't forget about that. Alright, so my next piece to lock in is going to be this one down here, because the entire thing is underneath. You can put the glue on either the lace itself or straight onto your substrate. Come on, glue. Don't give me a problem now. I'm having more problems getting my glue out, so I think I'm going to be stuck with having to sew it down at the end anyway. But C'est la vie. This glue is slow moving, so it helps to between applications if you lay your bottle down flat instead of on its end, then the glue doesn't have so far to travel to come out. The downside of doing that is sometimes it just comes out in a big glob on its own, and I never know when that's going to happen, but I'll take my chances. Hopefully I'm putting down enough glue to hold it in place permanently. Now, I think I may have already said, I like to take care of my corners first and then fill in what's left over. That just seems to work better for me. Okay, that's going to be next. I've got rough edges here and here. If I know I'm going to have a rough edge that's going to be on top regardless, I will often first take and turn it into a fringed edge so it looks better. And if if you like that look, then consider doing that yourself. It doesn't have to be a huge fringe, just so long as it's not a rough, uneven cut that just doesn't look good. Alright, so now we've got to cover this whole area here. At least half of it. So bear with me. You can always count on getting an interruption. I know I turned this the opposite way, but I'm okay with that. And I'm going to drop that in there. This part here, which I didn't notice before, is going to get covered over anyway. So you can see some of it's starting to drip out on its own. Time for a new tissue. Okay. That's going to be up there. That's my right side up. How are you all doing? If you're crafting along with me, let me know in the comments what you're making. And by the way, I had, a couple of weeks ago, I had uploaded a true crime video on Gypsy Rose Blanchard without knowing that she was everywhere. And anyway, it got a good deal of viewership, and then I accidentally, that's not even going to show, so I accidentally deleted it. I couldn't believe what I had done. I'd spent all day editing. I was worn out, and I thought I had an old version there because the thumbnails were so similar, and so I didn't realize until it was gone forever what I had done. And Swoop said I have to now wait for 6 months before I can repost it. The problem is, though, it was a timely content, and 6 months from now the entire story is going to be much different than it is now, so I really won't be able to upload it again at all. So if you missed it, you need to stay current. YouTube is not notifying hardly anybody who subscribes, even if you click the all link, to get all of my notifications. They're not hardly notifying anybody about anything. So if you want to stay up to date, you need to, set your computer, your phone, whatever you're using, to the home page of the channel itself, so you can tell yourself if a video has been uploaded that you haven't seen and want to see. I just cannot trust YouTube to do me any favors at all. Not that I ever could, but it's worse now than it's ever been. So, just check the homepage of my channel if you want to know what's current, or if you've missed anything. And that way you can be in charge of what you see and what you want to pass on. And so just a word to the wise: never count on YouTube to do anything right, regardless of what they say. they're certainly not going to do anything for a small channel like this. Maybe if I was super big, but anyway, I just make a habit of the people I really care about watching. I just make a habit of going to their channel itself, and I don't rely on YouTube for any notification. And I think everybody should do that. Now, as far as contrast goes, you want to sprinkle your different colors around and try your best to make your left side feel balanced with the right side. It's not so much important that you do that on the vertical, but this way, as you're looking at it, for instance, if I was going to use this masterboard as 2 pages in a journal, or actually 4 pages because there would be the reverse as well, I want to make sure that this side is in balance with this side. I know that once you fold it over, in that case, it's not really going to matter. What you want to do is try to make one half of it look pleasing to the eye and the other half look pleasing to the eye. And a lot of people don't pay any attention to that, and the quality of their journals reflect that. So I've been working from the bottom up, and I only glue down about half a piece at one time. That way I have better control over my placement, and I can also keep the piece from moving out of position if I hold half of it down while gluing the other half, if that makes sense. Okay, so there's the base, and now we'll think about what we're going to do on top to add the sizzle and really make it pop. Before I do that, let me trim off this excess over here. Okay, now I've got a bunch of things, like here's a really nifty little trim, a lace trim, and that could go somewhere, and it's been coffee dyed, so we're getting some really nice contrast from it. This is another piece here, a little bit wider, also has been coffee dyed. And I think right off the bat I want to use this one here that's not quite as dark, and I'm going to drop that in right there to cover over the raggedness of that edge there. Also adding in some vertical and horizontal lines with these small pieces is going to help unite your masterboard as a whole. Because when you get a bunch of disparate parts here and there, it's easy for it to start looking cluttered. And then the eye does not know where to look first, and it gets confusing. And so whenever you can control where the eye goes and create unity, you're going to have a more successful design. Alright, now this edge down here is quite raggedy. I got this piece put in the wrong way. It should have been like that, so that this down here would run down here. So I'm stuck with this awful looking raggedy side here. I don't know how that happened, but it did, so we'll run with it. Maybe I'll take, I'm going to probably need a wider piece to run down this edge, because the raggedness is wider. That was my signal to start a new clip. I had not planned on putting a, do I want to do that, or do I want to use one not so noticeable? I don't know. This one is ruched and not going to lie flat, but let me see what else I've got here. I could drop in something like that. See, if you wind up putting something down that's going to throw your design off, simply because it's draws attention to itself color-wise, then that's not going to help you any. So I want to cover over this messy edge, but not with a strong color, because that's going to literally divide my masterboard into thirds when I might not necessarily want to do that. So by dropping in a lighter version, I don't create all that attention down here where I might not necessarily want it. Okay, now I think I have a piece up here that I thought maybe I might drop in there, or one that's in better condition, maybe not such high contrast. Let's see. Yeah, I'll turn it over. So you see that helps lift up a spot that is so light and you can't really even see the design on the lace, and it winds up just being this big light blob and has no interest of its own. So let's kind of lift that a bit. So I just got a message from Swoop saying she just posted a new video. So that lifts my spirits, and as soon as I'm done here, I'll go over and watch her new video. If you want to know who I'm talking about, my daughter is a fairly well-known influencer on YouTube. You just type in the word Swoop and look for the lady with the teal or blue colored hair, and she has a second channel called Swoop 2, that's T-O-O, where she also posts shorter videos of different types of topics. So go give her a watch if you're interested. All right. So now when I'm trying to look at the whole thing to see, check my balance, check my flow of color, and so on and so forth, it's a good idea to step back from it and then squint your eyes. And when you squint your eyes, little details are going to drop out of your vision, and then you can more easily just concentrate on, say, color for instance. And so that's what I'm going to do now. Obviously, I'm a little heavier on because of this piece here. It's darker here. I have two pieces here that are fairly dark. They're just not as dark as this single piece is. So overall, I'm a little bit weighted over here. And so I'll have to see if I want to correct that. I think it's rather boring right in here. You know, if I'm going to fold this in half, that would be one page there, and there's no focal point. So I really need something right there that's strong and interesting. And then on this side, I think I'm fairly okay. I might want to beef up this section here a little bit because it's so light you really can't see it well. It just kind of comes across on the screen anyway to me as being just this big light area with nothing going on. So I have this coffee dyed jute cording string, whatever you want to call it, that I thought I would glue onto the cover as a focal point. I'm kind of liking how that will work out if I can get it glued down like that. So if that's on my cover, then it makes sense to perhaps do something like this on at least this side of the masterboard. So I have a nice focal point there. So that's what it would look like as a page. And then here is the whole thing. Of course, when you open it up like this, then that's just way too strong. So I could maybe put a smaller piece down here for balance. But I'm just not, I like it as just the page, but I don't like it as far as the whole masterboard goes. So I had some of this cheesecloth that I had dyed, which I had thought maybe I could use a little piece of that somewhere. Maybe if I use a little more of something like this. To that's sort of my halfway point. I'm thinking I may need something in here. Unfortunately, this is a little bit screwed as far as a little lower down here than I am up here. But I think I like putting a horizontal line with some contrast right through there. That's going to cover over some of this, or at least make it not so noticeable. That's kind of sticking up there. And this helps reestablish a straight line across instead of this slight diagonal I got here on that bottom strip of lace. So yeah, I think we're gonna do that. I'm wondering if it would be better this round to put the like that. You see some of the darker, it's darker on this side than on the reverse side. So this bothers me right in here. I think we're going to have to cover that over. Yeah, I think that's gonna make it look better, whether we're solve all the problems or not, I don't know yet. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. Still think I need something up there. Don't know if I want to use another one of these. Need to find a piece of lace that could be a focal point. I didn't want to get this hanging down too low because it draws the eye down and then it starts to feel more bottom heavy. So it is bottom heavy because this is all dark, but I need something up here to draw the eye upward. So this is why we're doing what we're doing here. These are parts of a lace applique, which make great focal points when you're dealing with lace. Yeah, that gave us what we needed here. So now the eye is drawn there first and then moves around the page, and it's still quite flat even though that is a second layer on top. Whereas if I had gone with the cording, that's thicker, and it just wasn't doing it for me. So I'm happy with this. I hope you like it, and I hope you were able to follow along. And let's just give you a closer look at I'm not very good at showing it around when it gets up close. Anyway, you get the idea. Maybe we can zoom in a bit. That's as far as I can zoom. So I'm quite happy with this, and I hope you like this excursion into working with lace and what you can do. Just make sure you have different sizes, your colors blend together, some are light, some are dark, and then you want to try to balance everything side to side and sometimes up to down as well. But again, it all depends on what you plan to have as the purpose for this. So I'm still, I think, going to use the cording on the cover, and I'll create a design that looks somewhat like that. So it's elongated to go with the elongated size of the journal. I have decided I'm going to leave that. That fold is just in there, no reason to take it away, and it makes it easy to know that, you know, you just lift, you can reach up there and lift to open the cover up. And so that will be the outside cover. I'm not going to do anything to the inside, so this will just remain as it is. And then this will be 2 pages on the interior, and then I'll decide whether to leave this as it is. Not that someone's actually going to try to journal on fabric. I don't know. I probably will do something with the reverse side as well. So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed this content, and if you have, please give the video a like. Give me your comments and what you're working on, and let's just chat a bit. And do come back and watch more. I have many videos on masterboards. It's one of my specialties. So just look in my playlist and you'll find a whole slew of them if you're interested in masterboards in particular. That said, thanks for being with me, and I do appreciate all of you so much. So this is Miss Darling calling this a wrap. Bye-bye.